Hi, my name's Michelle from Word Science VWR, and I'm here to tell you about essential activities for essential earth science lessons. Now, earth science encompasses a whole bunch of different areas, so we've picked 4 different ones to concentrate on today. So to make it easier for everyone to hear, please mute your phone. If you have a cell phone, make sure to press the mute button. If you have a landline, *6 to mute. If you have a question at any time, you can unmute or press *6 at any time. And questions and comments are encouraged. Ask out loud or send them to us using the WebEx chat feature. If I can't answer it right away, I'll certainly get back to you, take your information, or you can, I'll tell you how to email me at the very end of the presentation, and you can ask me the question and I'll get back to you within 24 hours, okay? All right, so earth science. The first thing we're going to talk about, there's an agenda that's up on the screen now. First is rocks and minerals and how to test for identification. Then we're going to talk about 3 brand new kits that are economically priced, and they have a very STEM focused activities, and they are called our essential line. And our essential line can be found at the whole thing, this whole line of economical kits at wordsci.com/essentials, sorry. All right, now let's get started with rocks and minerals. And the first thing is our new essentials kits. You said I could do this, right? Our new essentials kits has a list here, there we go, where it has 12 different specimens. You can also buy them individually. They're smaller than our normal ones. This particular thing is our minerals, and it has, instead of the numbers on them as our normal kits do, it has pictures that correspond to each of these specimens that look very similar. All right, so let's talk about how we test for these minerals. First thing you look at is luster versus non-luster. And luster is if it looks metallic. So if it's shiny, I'm going to go back and forth a little bit as we do, if you don't mind. So this is this is metallic looking, while this one obviously is not. So this one would have luster, and this would be non-luster. There are also different classifications of luster that I'll get to in a moment. Let me read through these, and we'll go to the next slide and talk about them in a little more detail. The second one is hardness, and what we're going to be using to identify minerals today is our Ward's Rock and Mineral Test Kit, and it has all of the supplies that we're going to use, except for one that I'll explain in a minute, in this list. So luster, hardness, and for hardness we have copper, we have a nail, and we have a glass plate. Then there's streak, cleavage and fracture, acid test, magnetic, whether it's magnetic or not, and the last one is color, which is not a good indication, but it might help because color can have some other elements that give it a different color. So you might have a halite that can be white or blue or yellow, depending on if it has other elements that are introduced to that. Almost as a, in a way, kind of as a contaminant, but it makes it look so pretty. Listed here also, it tells you what this essential kit has in it. Here it says apatite, hornblende, muscovite, hematite, limonite, milky quartz, calcite, graphite, pyrite, halite, selenite, and microcline. And on the bottom of this slide, there's 2 websites that are really cool that your students can actually go to, and it'll take you through the steps. So it'll say, does it have luster? Yes or no? And then it will actually do kind of the dichotomous key for you. That's what this is really good for, though, is to teach classification and dichotomous keys. All right, so let's go to the next slide. And here are some examples of some of those tests that we just talked about. We talked about luster already. And then another one is the next one is the hardness. And the hardness, as I said, comes with 3 different parts. There's the glass slide. There is the copper, or a copper penny you can use. And there is a steel nail. On the back of the extra sheet, there are some descriptions and characteristics of each of these. And so on here it talks about apatite, and it says it's a hardness of 5. So we're going to test it according to this Mohs hardness scale that's on this slide. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the piece of apatite, and I'm going to show it under here because that's the easiest way. We're going to take the apatite, and all you do is try to scratch it onto the glass, and you can see it left some of the apatite. See how it's got a piece of the apatite? But that comes right off, so there's no scratch. And since there's no scratch, it's not then the glass is harder than the apatite. Now let's see the copper. And the glass is what on the scale? I think it's at about 6. It's kind of hard for me to see from here. And then the copper on the hardness scale is about a 3. And as you can see, if I take this copper and I take the apatite, you can see how easily it is, it scratches it. I don't know if you can see it with the reflection. It's kind of hard when it's got luster itself, right? So there's a scratch. So this apatite is harder than the copper and not as hard as the glass slide. So it falls indeed in about that 5 range on the Mohs hardness scale on that sheet. All right, the next thing besides another thing that you test with is the streak. This is really important because sometimes a mineral can be a color, but when you put it onto a streak plate, it actually leaves a different color. So it's a characteristic way of testing it. Okay, so here we have our unglazed porcelain or unglazed ceramic tile, and we take one of the minerals. And in this case, we're going to take hematite. And hematite, I'm going to put it under here, right? Hematite, if you look at the color, it's one I used for a luster before, so it looks kind of silver. And if you put it on the thing, I don't know if you can tell really well. Hold on, I'm going to try. It has a red streak. So you would expect it to be a silver streak, but it comes out as a red streak. This one is another characteristic one that comes out to be different for streaks. This is pyrite, also called fool's gold. And if you streak fool's gold, it ends up with a black, I know I'm trying, a black streak on the plate. There, can you see it? Sort of. Better? Trying. Okay. You'll have to trust me, get the kit, and you'll see how beautiful the colors are. All right. So that streak plate, that's another important way that they test for minerals to identify them. Next is, if you look at the bottom of that slide where it says cleavage, they usually break these minerals with a hammer, and it does one of 2 things. If it forms a beautiful, like crystalline structure on the edges, and as you look at this one, I'm going to try one more time, but this one's going to be prettier. You can see that it's actually like lines. So if I were to break this, and they did to make this, you can see that it's got angles. So that's called cleavage in comparison to the other white one here, which is actually quartz. And you can see that it is fracture. It's got kind of cracks. It kind of breaks in a jagged way instead of in a clean, angled way. All right, so that's cleavage versus fracture, and it depends on what atoms are there and what structure they're actually in as to how they break when you hit them. So we talked all the way down to acid test, magnetic, and color. So for the acid test, since it's hard to tell between these different white ones that I just showed you, a couple of them, there are a couple of minerals that will actually react with acid. So I'm going to put my glasses and my gloves on, and we'll see if you can see that any better. Gloves have to go the right way. Now, I know which one it is, and I know which one's going to bubble, so I'm just going to pick that one arbitrarily. It is the calcite because it's composed of calcium carbonate. And we'll see if we can see bubbles. May or may not because it's so shiny. Kind of hard to see. Sometimes what helps too, you can tell the students to kind of, oh, it's bubbling good, but I don't know. You can kind of have the students scratch it a little bit with the steel nail or anything that's sharp, and it'll expose a little more surface area. And it will also bubble more. All right, so the only thing that doesn't come in this kit for testing is the acid. They give you the bottle, so you have to make a hydrochloric acid. Some people use vinegar. It's not as effective as the acid. So it depends on what you're comfortable with your students using. Maybe you want to demonstrate that one if you've got a little bit of a rambunctious class. All right, so that's the acid test. Now I can take these off. And the next one is magnetic. Unfortunately, none of the minerals that are in this kit actually are magnetic, but in case you're testing other ones, because the identification kit goes to any rock and mineral, then also included is a magnet, so you can test to see if it's magnetic. Sometimes what people like to do is, or you want to see if it's metallic, they also do paper clips to see for magnetite to see if you can get the paper clip to stick, and that's a good way to see if they're magnetic as well. And the last one, like I said, is color. Color becomes more important. We're going to talk about color when we get to some of the other rocks, but for minerals, it's harder. Like I said, you can have those contaminant chemicals in there. All right, so I'm going to stick all this away, and we're going to go to the next part. So we talked about minerals, and once they identify the different minerals, then you can talk about those minerals and how they combine into different rocks. So rock is a combination. Oh, I forgot that slide. Thank you, Peter. If you look, what I included here is a whole mineral identification. I just showed you how to use them. It takes you into a whole slew of minerals, and it goes luster. It's hard to see on this, but you can certainly take this out of the PowerPoint, copy it onto a sheet of paper, and blow it up so you can work with it a little better. But it says luster, then it takes you to the next one. It might say streak, or it might say magnetic. So each of those little boxes lead you to its own selection system. Okay? All right. Thank you. Now, because now you've identified these minerals, you're going to look at different rocks that these minerals go into, or that the rocks are composed of the different minerals that you just talked about. So the first one we're going to talk about is igneous. And igneous essential kit. Again, there's 12 of them. They're just like the minerals in that they have the key. They have a key pasted here and a key with information here. And so it makes it easier. These are made for the teacher that knows more of their rocks, but you can certainly find them or number them yourself before you give them out to the kids. We have other kits that are bigger specimens and numbered so that they don't get as easily confused. But it's easy to look and figure out. Some of them are similar, but if you look hard enough, like these two sort of look the same. But you can definitely see by looking at the picture that these are bigger crystals and smaller crystals. All right, so let's talk about igneous, how it's formed. That's the next slide. Igneous is formed in two different environments. One is intrusive and one is extrusive. And as you look at these rocks, you will see that, as I said, this one has smaller crystals. This one has a little larger crystals. It looks more speckled. Here, we'll do it this way because you can certainly see it better, right? These are larger crystals. These are the smaller crystals. So as you look at this, this one had a longer time to form these crystals. So that one is an intrusive, would be an example of an intrusive igneous rock. This one, because it has small crystals, it means that it cooled very, very quickly and the crystals didn't have time to grow or to solidify into crystals. That would be an example of the extrusive igneous rock formation. Okay, so next slide. This is, I tried to find a classification system to help you understand how to identify these igneous rocks and how they're actually, how normal geologists can identify them. And as you look at things, there's a couple of things actually in the igneous that's cool, is people will be amazed at how light the igneous rocks are, because some of them have basically trapped air. The pumice and the scoria are very light, and so that'll be a disconnect to kids. When you say, pick up this rock and it's really light, they'll have to explain why is it light versus a dense rock. So give them two of them. Give them an obsidian and a scoria and tell them, what environment do you think it was formed in, and make them think a little bit about the creation of those rocks. We don't think about rocks growing, but once upon a time they sort of have to grow in a different way than what we normally think growth is. So if you look at this, the biggest difference with igneous and with igneous rocks is is mafic. So I'll go back to my pumice and my scoria. So a mafic rock is dark, and a felsic rock is light. So these are about as far apart from each other as you can get as far as those classifications. And then you'll have grays and different variations of color in between. As they look at these igneous rocks, they have to think about that they were melted. So are you going to find fossils in this rock? Probably not, because they've been melted and they've just hardened again. Some of them fast, some of them slow. Also, when you look at the rocks versus the minerals, a lot of times you'll be able to pick out the individual crystals that are in there, and you can see that there's white crystals and gray crystals and how they're made up of different minerals. So the gray mineral is one thing, the white mineral is another thing. And that's how they make the jump from minerals to rocks. All right, that is igneous. Oh, and the collection is listed right there as to which ones are included in the set. Next comes metamorphic. I tried to make sedimentary usually goes first or before metamorphic, and I'll explain why. I kind of switched them around to make the PowerPoint flow better, and you'll understand when we get to the next activity. So metamorphic rocks are ones that have been under pressure and temperature, and they have changed their crystal, and they've rearranged their crystals so that they're in a different pattern. And if you look at this slide, I love this slide because it talks about how shale ends up turning with a little bit of pressure into slate. So the shale ends up turning with a little bit of pressure into slate, and then into, and I'm trying to read this, phyllite, and then schist, and then gneiss. okay? And so with more and more pressure, it changes and they become something called foliated. Foliated rocks, or metamorphic rocks, are foliated or non-foliated. That's how they're distinguished. And if you look at these, I'm going to show you foliated versus non-foliated. Looking for a good non. This is foliated, if you see the lines. So these crystals of minerals have actually lined up into lines. Let's see if we can, there, I think it's better if I do that. And this is non-foliated, so they're just arranged randomly. They're not actually in lines like the foliated, okay? A good place to find a metamorphic are at where the temperature and pressure are, is going to be where the tectonic plates are rubbing against each other. And so that's where you're going to find a lot of metamorphic rocks. The pressure of those plates moving and the temperature caused by them moving causes that process to occur. And the next page is about how you classify them, which I've already given you a little indication. As you can see on this chart, it's separated into foliated and non-foliated. And you can see that depending on what minerals are present, you will identify as to what the rock is. And you can see that some are going to be light and some are going to be dark, just like we had with the igneous rocks. Okay? The igneous rocks and sedimentary rocks can be converted to metamorphic under the right circumstances. But they have to start as something else before they're metamorphic. Metamorphic means change, right? All right. That's it for that one. And the last type of rock are the ones that you see pictured in a lot of places, because people love to show the strata or the lines. And so sedimentary, the process is usually in a lake or a slow moving river. It would have to be something slow, has time for all of the little pieces of rock, little minerals and things to settle down and create the bottom of the bed. Then over time, another layer is going to come in and it's going to drop down. So what are those layers going to be? It depends what is present at the time. So, and you can go back and you can see what the environment was that it was formed in, depending on what it looks like. One of those indications is this kind of, can I show this? Maybe? This kind of, if I hold this, it seems to do better. There. I don't know why it blocks something. So this is a bunch of shells that have been stuck together. So this would be a tropical or a marine environment at one point. And that doesn't mean that it's always a marine environment. If you look at Rochester, New York, you go out and look at some of the layers of sedimentary rocks, and you'll see areas where they have shells and they'll have this kind of rock, and you'll know that once upon a time it had to have been underwater to create that. All right, so this is called coquina. If I was to take this and put acid on this one, just like I did with the calcite, it would also bubble. So that's an indication that it was once a seashell. Okay? All right.
We have one question.
Yes.
Do you recommend using larger sedimentary models or the pieces you're showing us now?
It depends on how many, first of all, what do you want to do with it and how many people are in your class. What's nice about this is that since they are, they're more economical, they're not as pretty as a rock, you're not bigger, maybe don't have as much of the crystal sizes, but you can have every student touching one of these. Whereas the other one, when they are, you can't buy as many, every student can't necessarily kind of be playing with their own set, which is definitely a value. This is a sandstone, which you normally actually also have seen. Well, there. This is commonly used to show sedimentary because you can see the lines and how it was laid out as well. Also, in sedimentary are the only kind of rocks that you're going to find fossils in, because metamorphic, with the temperature and the pressure and with the melting of the igneous, neither of those are going to have any fossils in them. So sedimentary are really exciting because, you know, the kids will go and you'll go to a quarry where there's sedimentary rocks, and they're digging out little old brachiopods and things, and they're finding little shells and little crinoids and all kinds of different fossils or pieces of fossils. That's kind of exciting to them too. All right. That's all there is about rocks. And like I said, this also lists on the next one the collection showing sandstone, all the conglomerates, some of the bits that I've talked about. And I've picked arbitrary, like a random classification of sedimentary rocks, but you can certainly take this set and go through the same process and make it so that, is it a rock, is it a mineral, is it jagged, is it rounded pieces, jagged as breccia, rounded as conglomerate. And just like I said with the others, it's a good selection process to teach students to distinguish between differences. All right, so that is, any other questions about that? So for geologic cores, I picked to do the sedimentary last because it goes right along with geologic cores. So for these geologic cores kit, the students will now, after they've seen their sedimentary rocks, they can make their own rocks. They can make their own geological cores. And it's really hard to get cores these days. So this is a good alternative. And I'll show you how to do this. And then I also have a couple of alternatives as well. So the first part of this kit, it comes as there's these big straws. The other little straws would be very difficult to do this with, but we have big straws, and the straws will cut into thirds to be about 3 inches long. And you're going to take different colors of Play-Doh, and this is of special dough that comes in the kit. This is called Modeling Geo Core. And like I said, all of this is in the bottom. And what you do is it's easiest to take a knife, I think, but you could certainly reform it, or you could have them make the layers without this. But to me, I found it was easier just to cut them into layers, different colors, and you can make the layers different sizes, different widths, or however you want to say. And then there are, I believe, 5 different colored beads. 5 different colored beads. Each of these little beads are going to correspond to a different type of fossil that you'd find in a different time period. And you're going to take these beads, and I'm going to pick a bead that's not green. So I have yellow here, because green was the first one I just picked. And you're going to scatter them on top of that little bit of clay. Then you're going to I'm going to pick pink because that isn't going to interfere. Take pink, put it right on top of there. So now I have it there. Now I'm going to take green, because I think I took yellow. Yes. I'm going to take green and put it on top of there. And you could certainly put them in the middle and work them in if you want. It doesn't matter. And as you can see, I'm not necessarily making it. Whoops, look, we got the wrong time period there. All right. Now, once we have that, you're going to take the next layer of sediment, and you could have them make up a whole story about how those sediments, what are the time periods, what kind of fossils they'd find there, or you probably do that at the end after you have all of this together, you're going to kind of press it together because there's sedimenting or cementing them, right? And now you have these little straws, and you're going to gently, the student is going to gently kind of twist it down, right? And you can do 3. I would take this one out first. Okay, can you see? Now we have layers. And then you're going to have them do 3 different ones, and they fit really nicely in these little dough containers, so that if you need to close them up again, you can. Just put the lid on. Okay, and you have 3 of them. Okay, now you take these, and what the students are going to do is they are going to measure, not in inches, this is science class, they're going to measure the different widths or lengths of these colors, and then they can correspond that to a different part in time. And also as they look around, now watch, it didn't happen on this one. Happenstance. Hold on. I will show you the ones I did earlier. The one I did earlier, you can see that a fossil was actually trapped, right? And actually a few fossils were trapped in these, but luck of the draw, it didn't work. And then you can talk about, why aren't all of these exactly the same? Are the distances exactly the same? Do all of them have fossils? Do they not have fossils? And you can talk about variabilities in the environments and how they change. And this is the geologic activity, geological core activity. The next part of this is that now, once they've done that and they've been able to tell a story, or at least be able to look at the time difference and how does you could make it so that it works to be the right time, you can now, for the second part, is build it into, and then, I forgot to show you too, that these actually come out really easily. And if they don't, you can push them with a pencil or something, because it's big enough, and you can see that the core comes right out. So they could actually look and search for the fossils if they want to as well. All right. And then the second part of this activity is you have this model. You could use this model actually in a couple of ways, because if you've done all of the discussion that I talked about earlier, then you could create different types of environments. Or, to me, it should be this way, so that it's like a lake and it stratifies. And the study of the strata is called stratigraphy, which is a really kind of fun word too, because you're always trying to stretch students' vocabulary. So you can put it in here, build this up into layers, and then they can come and they can take samplings from different areas in this mold, and then they have to tell their story. Why, this is something in this area where it's not as deep is going to have a lot, many fewer, I don't think you can say that, but fewer layers than something in the deeper area. Okay? All right. So that's a really cool way to look at geologic time. And if you look, another option is that we have a kit also that is even more real life, I guess you could say. It actually has fossils, microfossils. So those little beads are very similar to this, okay? So all of these are grains of sand, and they actually have fossils of little critters on there, all right? I know critters, it's a very scientific word. And so it is, they have little fossils that you can look at under the scope. So you could actually get these and put them into the Play-Doh if you really wanted to, but then why waste them? Because then they're sort of a waste. Or there's also a kit that's more of a traditional kit, that with a longer write-up and lots more questions, things like that. And that actually is a microfossil mystery, and you're looking for these fossils within the kit. All right. The next page or the next slide talks about all the geologic time scale. I really like this GSA geologic time scale. It has all the periods and the eras and the epochs and all of that. And it's so colorful that you can take it from here and use it in your classroom. So I tried to give you some resources that you didn't have to go and look for anything. Let's see. So yes, that's everything with the Geo Cores. Any questions about that? Nope. Okay. Yeah. All right. So in this slide, this is actually the Cleveland water supply. And it goes through and tells you each step of how water is treated when it comes in before you can use it as drinking water. And so the first one is it says debris removal, or it's basically like a rough filtration. So when people dump leaves in the gutter and a lot worse things, and they collect them and they take those out of the water first, then they mix it up well. That's the second part. And the third part is they add some bacteria and they add some chemicals that cause it flocculation. So it takes all the little impurities and makes it all clumped together. So it flocculates, which just means that it makes all these impurities kind of stick together. And then the third part is you wait for that to settle. Sedimentation. Look, that was just like our sedimentary rocks, right? Or our geologic cores. They all go together. They're all the same kind of process. So after sedimentation, then it goes into filtration. And the last one is the one they all remember when they turn on the tap. It's actually where they add the chlorine and disinfected. I just can't see it from this distance. All right. So after you've talked about this is what a big, what a big city does, or even a small city. So after you've talked about that, and after you can either even take a water treatment in your town, take a tour, or there's lots of videos online that actually take you through tours of water treatment, then you say, okay, now that you know how big cities do it, you're going to compete and make the best water treatment that you can in the classroom. The way you're going to do that is on the next slide. With clearing the water, now you can see that you've seen, now you can say that you've seen it. Okay? So here's the one where my assistant, my lovely assistant, made two different versions of a water filter, right? And there are lots of things in the kit like sand and gravel and activated charcoal and coffee filters and cotton and all kinds of things. So they get to pick what they're going to use, and then they create it. And this is the STEM part, because they're thinking about how would this affect based on all that flocculation and all the things we talked about. So the first thing you do is that you take and you prime it with about 90 mils of water, and you wait for it to go through. Sometimes it just has to make sure that everything gets wet. This one's sort of smoking a little bit because the little powder is poofing. That's a scientific word too, poofing. All right.
Question for the age range for this kit?
This one, most of our essentials, what we call essentials, is for the middle school, but you can certainly, with supervision, take it a little lower, or you could take it a little higher, but really this is more of a middle school kit. All right? So now it's gone through, it's been primed, it's nice and wet. You can take the sample fluid, and as you see there, there's a few things that you could actually try. You could do clay, like make it a turbid solution and see how clear it is at the bottom. You could even do it on if you have the equipment, this will be more high school, you could put it on a spectrophotometer and see how turbid it is, and you could actually measure it. Or you can do red food coloring, which comes in the kit, and pour into each of them. That's what I'm going to do here. and I'm not measuring it out, so I'm not being very scientific right now, right? Give it a minute. And, or you could actually put some bacteria. You could buy some bacteria, or if you think something's kind of cruddy and you want to test it at the end and take the water and put it on a plate and see how much bacteria is left, that's another thing that you could test. So these are all ways that you could judge them, or they judge each other to see who has the best water treatment system that they've designed. Then, of course, the best thing to do is to have them go back, try to modify what they've done and recreate it, or recreate what they think is going to be better. It's always about betterism, right? And then they can redesign and run it again and actually compete in a first or second trial. Another thing that you can do, along with how is it, what is the clearest, is what you normally think of at the bottom, is how fast does it happen, right? Because you don't want, as a water treatment facility, for it to take days for it to filter. So it might also be, what's the rate of filtration? How fast does it go through, right? And another part of that is that these materials cost money, and you can actually design whatever money you want to say that it is, right? And see if they can design it economically as well. How much are they using? What are they using? And those kind of things. All right? You're also introducing different terminology, like you can explain what distillation is, you can explain what ion exchange is, and what flocculation is. All right. Questions about that? And it's going through, and as you can see, this one is actually running faster. This one is kind of not running yet, but it will. If I left this overnight, and I could, what you're going to find, and I'm going to tell you the secret, but you can't tell your students, right, is that this one has activated charcoal in it, which was what was kind of poofing and smoking. It's not really smoking. And it will actually remove the red food coloring. But they'll find that out by trial and error. Okay? All right.
Can we see a more close-up?
Maybe. So that's one of them, and you can kind of see the charcoal that's kind of floated up to the top on that one versus this one. And it's just kind of hanging there. So, okay. These are taking a little bit longer. All right. Now, the last one that we're going to talk about today, but there's a whole other set. I have to take my pieces. There we go. That's everything. All right. So the last one is design a spacesuit. So I've picked a picture of a spacesuit there, and you can talk about what is space like. Space has a wide range of temperature, right? The lowest temperature in our galaxy is approximately minus 238 degrees Celsius. So a lot of times you'll see it written in Kelvin, but middle school students aren't really, I don't think, know what Kelvin is as much until you get to high school. The temperature of the moon itself, because it doesn't have an atmosphere, and most of the planets don't have an atmosphere, has a wide range, so that during the day it's about 115 degrees Celsius, and at night it's about minus 180 degrees Celsius. So that's such a wide range, and they know that there's that spacemen have walked on the moon, right? So how are they going to be protected against that wide range of temperature variation? So that's their job, is they're going to be designing a spacesuit for a spaceman or an astronaut, and they're going to use in the kit, there's a gnat that's flying. these cute little space worms. So this simulates, I'm going to do it here, this simulates a spaceman because it's full of fluid. And as we all know, we're full of fluid. So just like people, we want to be able to protect the fluid inside this space worm / astronaut, right? So in the kit comes a couple of thermometers. So the first thing you're going to do, you want to get a controlled temperature. So you're going to take, and you need to kind of just twist this so it doesn't break, and it actually will go right onto the thing. And then you would wait until the temperature was stable. We're not going to, this is a cooking kitchen show. We're just showing you what's available, right? So after you get that control, they write that down, and then they see if they can protect this guy under 2 different environments. One environment is a cold environment, and for the cold environment, you can take this, if you have a refrigerator handy, you can put it in a refrigerator for 5 minutes, or you could put it in a water bath, ice water bath, because these are actually waterproof. You could do that, and then take the temperature and see if it's changed over those 5 minutes. You're not going to take the thermometer and probably put it in there and put it in the refrigerator. You're going to take the temperature once it's done. The other environment that you want to test is, we said it gets really cold at night, but we said in the day it gets really hot. So what you're going to do is take this, put it into a, you can do it with a hairdryer for a few seconds, but the hairdryer will end up melting these if you're not careful. So you're not going to do it for very long, like 10 seconds. Or you can take it for 5 minutes and put it under a heat lamp, or even a lamp with an incandescent bulb, something like that that's going to heat something up, and then test it at the end as well. So their job as spacesuit design people, right, engineers, they're going to see how well they can insulate their little guy, right? So what I've done, I'm going to do it a couple of ways, but I did one here where I took some felt and some bubble wrap, and both those parts come in the kit. And you're going to do the same thing again, where you just kind of gently twist the thermometer and take your temperature, right? You can see it that way pretty easily, and then put it under the 2 conditions. Or you could do something like paper. Now, why am I picking paper, you say? Because the other part of this experiment is to, like I said with the clearing the water, the kit actually has each thing, so be tape, felt, bubble wrap. Paper doesn't come in the kit, but you can use it. There are things you can use. Styrofoam. And each piece of this has a price assigned to it. And so then they decide how much, they can only spend so much money on their design. And after they modify it, they can spend their what's left to modify it. And so paper is free. So some people might say, well, I'm not going to spend much money. I'm going to use just paper. So all that you do is you take your little guy or girl, and you can do it however you want. In this case, I'm taking paper. I might take some tape. Tape it down, right? And now I can do the same things that I just talked about and test it that way. They're going to run into, if they put it in a water bath, it's, there's going to be, get soggy, right? It's not going to be water resistant, and some things are going to be water resistant. They're going to find that it might retain, if the felt gets wet, it might retain, the water's going to work with a specific heat capacity to maybe keep it colder or warmer, and those are all things that they can figure out as they are experimenting. And again, it can be a competition. Who keeps it at the most normal temperature range with all of the groups? And they can work together. So many things that are wonderful. All right, any questions about that? And that's the Design a Spacesuit Challenge. If you have any questions, my email is up on the screen. If you want a copy of the presentation, you can email sciencehelp@vwr.com. If you have other questions also, you can email sciencehelp@vwr.com. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed having you. I always have fun doing these crazy things. So next slide is all the product information. Even the microfossils that I showed you, the little tube, is called the Strew Set. Strange name, but it comes in a mounting thing that's called a strew. That's why it's called a strew. All right, great. Thanks a lot.